Well, War Room back on Zoom this week. Really enjoyed last week with Ryan Walter.
Yeah, I wish we hadn't got cut short at the end. It was
Well, it's something to
could
keep
have
in
gone
mind.
on.
Something to keep in mind for next time. That um, as great as great as it is to do both. Having the friendly conversation and then getting into the topic. Based on Zoom giving you time limits, we may have to choose which one we want. Do we want to spend 25 minutes, how's the family, how you doing, share some stories, or do we want, a presentation leadership type thing? And
Yep. That you're right though. That was fun, and we'll know better next time.
Nonetheless, it was a
And
good
he'll be
time,
back.
good
Good friend of the
conversation.
show.
So definitely good. Playoffs are set. Playoffs are set and ready to go in all divisions. Bracket lines up north and west, east and central. So, and the playoffs begin this weekend.
Yep. Playoffs begin
Today, as of this recording, today is Friday, so they begin as early as, if not this evening, then tomorrow.
Yeah, I believe.
This recording.
Yeah, I believe Saturday the 15th is when everybody, when a handful of them tee off, and by Monday or Tuesday, the 17 and 18, everybody will be in action by then.
Toronto, Winnipeg tonight.
Sorry?
Toronto, Winnipeg tonight.
Right. I might just watch that one. Meaningless as it is. If you had to go in right now that we know who the 16 are, if you had to go in and pluck out, you're going to have some, it's just like making cuts at training camp. You're going to have a handful that are slam dunks that are going to make it. You're going to have maybe this year, there might be 3, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 teams maybe that you would consider not really having a legitimate chance. But all the other 12 or 13 or however many teams are left, there are just no shocks. There are no surprises in any of them.
Yeah.
And I suppose, like, I'd like to see who you would throw out. Obviously, throw out the high and the low. I would say probably Minnesota and Nashville are extreme long shots to go more than, maybe an upset round.
It's interesting for me though, because I could have said the same thing about Minnesota in the regular season. And
we did.
Not could have. We did. You're correct.
Yeah.
We did. And look at them. They're third in the West, and until Colorado and Vegas kind of separated themselves in the final 6 or 7 games, they were right there competing for the top in the West. So
right.
I'm hard pressed to make the same mistake predicting Minnesota is a long shot, but they do get Vegas in the first round, and it is the uniqueness of the playoffs in general, but especially this year. Again, nobody is really a surprise if they were to hoist the Stanley Cup. So,
well, remember this. Think about this. There's a big difference between being a cup contender or winning a cup or going to the finals and just, maybe a Minnesota or a Nashville pulling a first round upset. So you go in and Talbot or Kakkonen or somebody, you steal a couple of fluke games against Vegas and you upset Vegas, turn the world upside down. And it happens every year. There's not ever been a year where somebody didn't get upset. So that's all fun and games. But then what? Now you get Colorado, most likely. Or you get St. Louis even in a 7-game series. So big difference between an upset in the first round and being a legitimate contender. And that's why I say, you can throw out the high and the low, and there are like every year, there are 3 categories of teams that could win. There are 3 categories of teams in the playoffs. Those that are not going to win, those that might win, those that could easily win. It's just that this year there's only a couple of them that just simply aren't going to.
Well, going division real quick.
Yeah.
Colorado gets St. Louis. Colorado President's Trophy winners and first in the West. They get St. Louis. and Vegas gets Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Two good matchups there. St. Louis is interesting to me. And on a personal note, as an Avalanche fan, they worry me just because of their experience in the playoffs. Stanley Cup champions a couple years ago. They know how to play in the playoffs.
They do.
Minnesota, Vegas, on paper, that looks like it's a no-brainer. Vegas walks out of that one. But again, anything can happen. My two picks there it will be, though, at the end of the day, Colorado, Vegas.
Conventional wisdom, and it'd be really hard to argue with.
Coming out of the West, though, of those two teams, who do you pick?
Careful here.
Who do you pick? Because
once the first round is over, I don't want to use the word luck necessarily, but it is who stays healthy, who gets a decent goaltending performance, who hits a crossbar and goes in or goes out. Like all these things, who goes to clear a puck and it goes into the netting and you're serving now you're 3-on-5. All these things, they're not luck, but the margin of difference between a Colorado Vegas, for example, in round 2, the margin is a goalpost. That's it. I mean, a 7-game series could be decided by a goalpost, literally. So it's almost impossible to say. I would give Vegas the edge in goaltending. It's going to be tough for Colorado to play that heavy of a game, but we'll see. I mean, look what Gruby did to him a couple nights ago. So anything can happen, and he's proven to be a long-term good solution. Stay healthy, get a bounce. Anybody can, from the second round on, it can go any way.
East Division, Pittsburgh gets the Islanders, and Washington gets Boston.
Washington is banged up. I don't know, because nobody's saying too much about Oshie and Samsonov and John Carlson, and those are 3 big pieces. I don't like Washington's goaltending. I don't think they have the goaltending, and if they're beat up a little bit, Boston is likely to be able to beat them. Pittsburgh and the Islanders, a coin flip. That's a high-powered team in Pittsburgh against a clamped-down team in New York. Now I saw Varlamov get kind of carried off a couple nights ago. Where does that leave him? Yeah. Here we go already, right? So again, conventional wisdom. I'm going to take Boston and Pittsburgh in that division.
Boston, Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh coming out of the East.
I would sure think so. I like their goaltending. I like their size and speed combination better, and certainly experience. And with everybody healthy, with Crosby and Malkin and everyone healthy right now, I do like Pittsburgh there. Temper that with the fact that Boston has knocked Toronto out of the playoffs for like the last 17 years in a row. So I'm kind of gambling with my heart there a little bit, but
yeah,
that's another one because of the goaltending and because of the way Cassidy's got the Bruins playing. It's just another one of those, crossbar kind of differences in a 7-game series. How about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. Pittsburgh, though, is a team built for it, and so they're my pick to come out of the East.
Yep. Okay, I'd go with that.
North Division, you get Toronto and Montreal, and then Edmonton and Winnipeg.
This is a real interesting one to me because I've watched the most of this of any of the divisions this year by far, and I know Winnipeg's on a skid right now. I don't go to sleep on Winnipeg because Hellebuck is sturdy and they are a big, gnarly team, and I really like them in the playoffs. I have been on the Montreal bandwagon since the preseason. And again, they've added Josh Anderson and they added Toffoli. They're really strong. They've got Edmondson on defense. They've made some great additions. Carey Price is back healthy again. This is probably the most likely upsets of the 4. You're ready for more upsets in this first round in the North than any of the other 4. And just for fun, because I'm going to stick with them, I'm going to take Montreal and Winnipeg to come out of there in round one.
No, well, to me, it's not really an upset though for Winnipeg, and
No.
I only look at it simply on the basis that, all due respect, you shut down McDavid, and what can Edmonton do?
Yeah.
And so they've either got to prove what they can do in the playoffs, or they're going to get made to look foolish and have some big decisions to make. But right now, your guy is Connor McDavid, and if Connor McDavid and even Draisaitl aren't on the score sheet, they're not winning hockey games.
Well, you saw that.
So
Remember when Toronto went into Edmonton in April
yeah,
and swept 3 in a row or 4 in a row, something like that, made them look silly. And McDavid and Draisaitl had like an assist between them in the entire week. So you're absolutely bang on.
when they're winning hockey games, like any team, but especially for Edmonton, when they're winning hockey games, it's easy to point out the rest of the roster and how well they're doing. But when
Oh, yeah.
all of a sudden they lose games, all of a sudden it becomes crystal clear why they're losing games, and not just why they're losing games, but why they're winning games. And it becomes crystal clear that all they have is McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yeah.
And
Still too one-dimensional. I
when
also
you
am not
shut them
convinced
down, you shut them down. What does Edmonton have? So
exactly. And you're absolutely right. And we saw it. The other concern for me in the playoffs, and the reason I like Montreal over Toronto, is goaltending. I love Jack Campbell, not completely convinced of him in the playoffs yet, maybe. But Carey Price, yes. Again, Price and Allen together. And again, in Winnipeg in Winnipeg and Edmonton, I'll take Bucky over Smitty every day for the time being. Bucky's just more consistent, and so I'll stick with that. And those are reasons enough to bring those teams close enough together for an upset.
yeah, it's it's amazing what McDavid can do for you though, because it creates and he's great. But what I mean is if it were any other team, the superstar player, McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, anything like that, wouldn't be enough.
No.
All the analysts in the world would still say, "Oh, I don't see them winning because." But it's amazing how blinded some of the, quote, experts and other podcasters and all these people are out there to Edmonton and their chances because of McDavid. All of a sudden now, and it goes back to what I said a minute ago, all of a sudden now, Smith in net is finding his game again and is solid. And oh my God, Nuge and all these things. And it's like, well, that's great, but would you be saying this? Would you be saying the same thing? And I can actually point to proven evidence in past years with the likes of, say, Colorado, how all of a sudden McKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen, that top line, wasn't enough.
Right.
They're lighting it up. They're carrying the team. They're this and that. And everybody and their mom says, ooh, I don't like Colorado. Ooh, their goaltending. Ooh, their depth. Ooh, this or that. But Edmonton and McDavid, all of a sudden, here they go, Stanley Cup playoffs. And it's interesting to see kind of that bias.
That's why they play the game. And I can understand the bias to some degree. And I know this is not, I know you're one of them, at least on the fringe of the camp of being sick to death of hearing about McDavid, even though he's only like 24. But the guy is, except for those 3 or 4 games against Toronto this year, no one has figured out how to stop him. Nobody can skate with him. Nobody can stop him. Nobody can do anything with this guy. So he's more capable. And I probably would take Nate McKinnon given the chance first overall. But this guy is he's just impossible to handle. That's all there's to it. He's more capable of owning a game than anybody else in the league right
Oh, 100%. Don't take anything away from him. I don't, on an individual level, I don't take anything away from the kid.
Right.
He's tremendous. He's the best player in the game, arguably, for a reason. And, it is what it is. My point is he's more of a, right now anyway, he's more of a basketball style superstar where he's the guy, right?
now. Okay.
He's the guy in Edmonton.
Yeah.
The team goes how McDavid goes.
That's a good way to put it. Just throw the ball to your best guy and let him go. Or your tallest.
But to prove the point though, you made the same argument, and you still do, about Ovechkin.
Oh, exactly.
He stands there with his hands on his knees, stiff-legged, but yet he still finds the puck and he still puts the puck in. 50 goals a season now. The scoring race potentially to beat Wayne Gretzky. But notice how he didn't get a Stanley Cup victory until they started to put some pieces around Ovechkin.
Exactly.
Well, it's the same. Right. It's the same thing. Connor McDavid will always be in the Hart discussion. He'll always be in the Art Ross discussion and all this stuff. Great, and he's one of the best, if not the best player in the game today. Take nothing away from that. But on a team level, I don't see him hoisting Lord Stanley until when he comes off the ice or he goes down with an injury. Edmonton can still string together 10-game win streaks and be a force to play against, and they're just not.
If he is enough to go 3 rounds in, then let's see it. We're about to find out, aren't we? Yeah. That's what I mean. So that's why they play the game. All the trophies and all the highlights mean nothing now. The big kids are out of school now. It's playoffs. So let's see what it is. And if a guy like Tristan Jarry can take Pittsburgh deep or all the way, then let's see it. And if McDavid is enough, let's see it. If the
balance scoring balance
is good enough, and that's why with 12 or 13 legitimate teams to go into the finals, that's why this season is, they're getting progressively better ever since the 04-05 lockout. Every season has gotten more parity, more equal. The upsets are less stunning. This is really cool, and I'm looking forward to this.
Balance scoring and depth, and like Toronto has 6 guys with 20 goals.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado has 9 or 10 guys with 15 plus goals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's balanced scoring, and then you get into Edmonton, and it's McDavid, who has 100 points or more. Great feat in 56 games. Take nothing away from him. McDavid has 100 points. Draisaitl has 80-some points. And then who's after that? So my point being made that take nothing away from him individually, but on a team perspective.
Simple. Yep.
They play the game, and if I'm proven wrong this year in the playoffs, I'm proven wrong. But
let's see it.
In terms of predicting, which is what we're doing right now, I don't see Edmonton beating Winnipeg, and I don't see them coming out of the North or competing for a cup simply on the back of McDavid.
Depth. How much we beat the same dead horse all the time. Goaltending, depth, size, the chances, like just not luck. It's you make your own luck, but it's bounces. When the teams are this even, the bounces and who gets banged up. I mean, look what guys have been getting hurt, and you can't even tell that there was an issue. Like, guys will take a little bump, a little hip or a shoulder or something like that, and all of a sudden he's got an MCL. It's just that there's that much parity. You just never know, and everybody's got to stay healthy. And then there's always that guy who shows up that nobody was counting on, So
it was funny that you bring something up like that, and then I'll share this story, and then we'll get to the final division, and then do the quick hit stuff. But I was listening to, I don't really, one podcaster to another, I don't like to say I don't really listen to them, but I don't really listen to Spit and Chicklets.
Yeah.
RA is just
They're,
very hard to listen to. But I was watching on YouTube the episode from a week ago when they were talking to Gabe Landeskog, and he was, Landeskog told a story. It was funny when you're talking about injuries and people going down and all this stuff. He told a story from, I think it was the 13-14 season when Colorado won the Central and under Patty Waugh and was, and all this stuff. And he said it was funny that, Eric Johnson, he and Eric Johnson are best friends. They live together, and all that stuff. And, he's like, EJ likes to give it, but he doesn't like to take it. So we're out there and some guy takes a backhand from the blue line. These are Gabe's words. Some guy takes a backhand from the blue line, and that's hard to do anyway for a backhander, let alone from the blue line. And he muffins it and and everything, and EJ blocks it. But EJ goes down like a sack of bricks. Like his foot was shattered in 5 different pieces, and literally crawls off the ice.
Off a backhander?
So Landy and Jamie McGinn decided they were just cracking up. So they decided that they were, I think it was the next practice. The next practice, they went out with spray paint. And Landy laid on the ice, and McGinn spray painted him like it was a crime scene, right? A body crime scene. And then Landy got up, and it was the body imprint laying there. And then they spray painted the number 6 in the middle.
Right. Okay.
And he did not like that. So he went inside. So EJ went inside and cut the pockets out of Jamie McGinn's designer jeans, which McGinn was not happy with because they were expensive jeans. And it was hilarious when it was a hilarious story when you talk about all that stuff. But Andy also did say something about Patty Waugh real quick about, the importance of coaching and things. And he said Waugh was a good coach, but his problem was he himself as a coach didn't have an identity.
Oh,
which is where Colorado ran into some issues with him, because Waugh would come in and one day and be old school 90s, 2000s Patrick Waugh, where bag skate and this is how it's going to be and all this stuff. And then the next day he comes in and he's trying to be a player's coach and he's in the room shooting shit with everybody and, all this stuff. And he can't make up his mind which coach he wants to be and which way he wants to do it. And that makes it hard for the players then to understand what is expected of them. And
it's a good lesson for our coaches out there too. Figure out who you are, figure out what you coach to and what your strength is.
Anyway, I found that those couple stories interesting and that one pretty funny. It was pretty good, but
the crime scene. I love it.
The final division, real quick, before we get to the quick hit stuff. The Central, Carolina gets Nashville, and Florida gets Tampa.
The Florida-Tampa series, outside of Toronto, Montreal, that's going to be one of the most interesting outcomes because of the different trajectories they're on. Like Stamkos is banged up, Kucherov's still banged up. They really not had a lot of success outside of Vasilevsky in goal. Hedman is a little bit banged up. Florida is playing as well as anybody. I'm really, really eager to see that. But Tampa's still got John Cooper, and they've got the experience. You can't discount Joe Quenneville, one of the top guys in history, and what he's done with that team. And they've got some studs there. That whole top line is, the Huberdeau, that whole top unit is as good as anybody in the game. So that's going to be that's an absolute coin flip. Carolina over Nashville, I'd say is pretty foregone. And Nashville being one of just a couple of teams I think you can scratch off as probably headed the wrong direction. But I'm going to spare myself the embarrassment of trying to predict anything beyond the first or second round. I don't think that's I think that's a fool's errand.
Who comes out of the Central then, or at least who's your two teams in the final matchup of the Central to come out?
Florida and Carolina.
And you have Florida beating Tampa.
I do. I think that's an upset. Maybe not an upset, but that's a matchup that Tampa is going to have a lot of trouble with unless they're 100% healthy, and I don't think they are. Carolina, I don't like their goaltending, so long term, no, they're going to beat Nashville, but getting out of that division or getting out of the third round, certainly, I am not a player for Nedeljkovic or Peter Mrazek, either one. So I can't buy them long term. Rod Brind'Amour, one of my favorite coaches, one of the best guys in the league, absolutely. And they play their hearts out. They got a lot of talent, but I don't like their goaltending.
So is it a fair statement to say we're not predicting the Stanley Cup final matchup? I would be embarrassing ourselves if we tried to predict it at this point. Is that what we're saying?
I'm gonna take a line out of Bob McKenzie's playbook and say that predictions are for predictors, and I'm not one. I know who I like. I know who I believe is going to get there, but it's going to be. I mean, going public with predictions is just a way to sell copy, and I'm going to go with Bobby Mack here and say, let's just wait until a round or two is over and then start predicting.
Fair enough.
How about you?
I know what my heart wants me to say, but for the sake of the podcast, and remaining objective, I'm not going to predict, because it's just, in the West, any one of those four teams could come out of the West and you technically wouldn't be surprised.
No.
Minnesota might be a bit of an upset if they did, but the way they've played all year is that much of a surprise. The East, any one of those teams could come out of the East, and that's not a surprise if you really look at it. The North, the only one to me that would be a surprise based on what we just spent a few minutes talking about would be Edmonton. But otherwise, the other three teams could come out of the North, and I wouldn't be shocked. And the Central, the only one I'd be shocked of coming out of the Central would be Nashville.
Yeah, agreed.
Florida might be an upset, just on the basis of kind of that shock team that they haven't been there in years past, and now here they are.
Right.
But in terms of upsets, the one that would really shock me if they came out of the Central would be Nashville, and I just don't see that. But otherwise, it's hard to predict. My heart tells me that Colorado all the way, but objectively, it's hard to predict, so I'm not going to. But
so in a week or two, or like at least after the first round, we can look at this again, and certainly we will, because unfortunately for the world, juniors are shut down, and the U18 is over, and playoffs right now, this is all we have, except we got a couple of one-timers to discuss here before we're done. But let's look at this again in a couple of weeks. Yep,
agreed. We'll do that. But transitioning to finish up here this week, quick hit one-timer type stuff. John Tortorella no longer with Columbus.
Yeah, I think that's good for everybody.
Stepped away. Gerard Gallant is the front runner in New York for the Rangers right now. Which also, beg the question with Gallant, is he a guy for Seattle? Right now, the front runner being the Rangers, and those are the quick hits I have.
The coaching carousel is an interesting one, because obviously people have to make changes. The one that I like, I'm a big Spuds Gallant fan. I think he's a wonderful guy and a wonderful coach, and players love him. Why he's flunked out twice now recently out of Florida and Vegas, I don't know, but he's going to do well for someone somewhere. I don't know about him and Ronnie Francis in Seattle. I don't know if that's a situation that's going to work out or not. I don't know how well they would get along. Only they would know that. But the sleeper in the bunch to me is Rick Tocchet. He's the one that needs to go someplace where he's got a little bit more talent to work with than he ever did in Arizona. And
Would he be a guy for Seattle, you think?
He's the gem. If you've got, I would love, if you're the type of organization that wants to put somebody in that position for at least 5 or 6 years, then Tocchet's my guy. So I'm real curious to see where he goes. I have a world of respect for Rick Tocchet and what he's done as a coach and as a player, for crying out loud. So I just need to, as far as one-timers are concerned, I'm going to say Kaprizov should have he should not be in the Calder running. Guy's like 30 years old. He played 5 years in the K, and he's going to come over here and win a Rookie of the Year award.
Well, they've got to differentiate, and they've got to be more specific with their meaning for the awards. What they're basing it off of is he's a rookie in the NHL. Forget everywhere else. And I'm not saying I agree. I'm putting words to what I can tell you is the meaning behind the award.
That's how it reads.
They're the rookie. They're a rookie in the NHL. Now, tremendous player. He's not a rookie in pro hockey. And when you're 24 years old and you've already been in the gym and you're already got that strength and you're already playing a man's game, if you will, I agree he shouldn't be included, just like Panarin shouldn't have been included a number of years ago. They've got it. The league has to fix some of this. I think the award, we've already beat to death how stupid the awards are in general, but they've got to fix some of this, that these 24, 25, 26-year-old guys are in the running for Rookie of the Year, that the Norris Trophy is given to the defenseman that scores the most points. That, all these things, they've got to fix this because.
Well, I fixed it for them. We fixed this years ago because we stopped watching.
Oh,
so I'm also, with no disrespect to anybody really, except Vaclav Nedomansky in the Hall of Fame. I stopped watching that too. I mean, those are all great players, but until Cujo's in the Hall, I'm done. And this thing is, like, you could make the argument that a guy could be 25 or 26 years old coming out of the AHL. Maybe he went junior A, then he went to college, and then he, got out of college at 23 or 24, and he spent 2 years in the A, and now he's in the show, and all of a sudden he's a great player and he wins the Rookie of the Year. How is that different than playing in the K? That's a difference without that's a distinction without a difference. But I don't know how they solve that, but it does not seem right to me. And I don't, I guess I shouldn't complain about it unless I have the answer. I would be tempted to put an age limit on it, or at least, because there are so many legitimate pro leagues in Sweden and in all over Europe and Russia especially, because there are so many legitimate pro leagues, they've got to do something about this so that a Dylan Cousins or somebody like that comes out at 19 or 20 and has a great year, and he's nowhere because he's competing against guys 4 or 5 years older. It needs to be corrected. It needs to have some parameters put on it, because when it was written up a generation or two ago, there were no other legitimate leagues in the world. There was only one. And now there are.
Some of these things, like, I don't like the subjectivity of a lot of these things, and not just in hockey. I'm talking Hall of Fame selection in baseball. I'm talking who wins Dancing with the Stars or American Idol. Who gets selected to participate on The Voice. All these different things. It's like, how are you deemed the be-all, end-all expert to make the judgmental decision on whether or not they get a high score, or whether or not they're good enough, or whether or not they do this and that? It's like it's like Luke Combs, one of the biggest country stars today, is refused as a participant on The Voice, that singing show, because he's not entertaining enough. And yet, look at him.
I know.
Look at his awards. Look at his
Look at his record sales.
Look at his record sales. Look at all this stuff. And, or Dancing with the Stars, taking these celebrities who don't know how to dance, and yet they grind away and put in the work to learn these dances in a short amount of time to perform them on live television. And then you're going to sit there and you're going to tell me that that wasn't a 7 or 8 score, that was a 4 or 5 because the toe was pointed in the wrong direction.
We're back to the figure skating judges, aren't we?
I struggle with that because whether you win American Idol or you don't, whether you participate on The Voice or you don't, you're a good singer if you're a good singer. Who is this panel of people to tell you, like Luke Combs, that you're not going to be anything because you're not entertaining enough or because you didn't actually win the competition, right? The majority of the most successful people out there are the people that don't win it. The majority of the people hockey players out there that are successful weren't first overall draft picks.
Correct.
Like, why are we basing it on this subjectivity? What does that have to do with anything in regards to it? It baffles me, the subjectivity of it. I don't know the solution. I don't want to beat it to death if I don't have a solution myself, kind of like you, but it really baffles me.
Here's the foolhardiness of that whole deal. It's as if at the end of the year, someone would jump on our podcast and we would all decide who was the best player of the year, or who was the comeback player or the rookie of the year or whatever. It's just some random people that watch a lot of hockey that get to make these choices. And so why would I care? It's just an opinion. And now, especially in the era of social media, there are just hundreds of millions of opinions out there, none of which really mean anything. Form your own. Quit giving out awards that 5 or 6 people get to vote on. They don't have any more say in it than you and I. So that's a rant for another day too.
I'm a stats guy, so
yeah,
give me the hard
something I can measure
that proves something. So
exactly.
So
something I can measure.
Paul Stastny has now 1,000 games played and almost 800 career points. Statistically, right there, that is at least somebody that should be on the ballot for the Hall of Fame at the end of his career.
Yep.
On those 2 numbers alone. Ryan Fricken Graves last year should have won the Norris.
Absolutely.
Because he was a plus 42 on the year.
And there are naysayers to the plus minus stat, then don't keep it.
Yeah. I'm going to stop. We've beaten this to death enough, but it's just the award systems baffle me that, this year, for example, and this is all I'm going to say about it, and you're damn right, it's going to be a emotional type statement based on the Avalanche, but how you can have, and I'm going to look it up so I can say it correctly here. The Avalanche finished 39-13. 39-13-4.
Mm-hmm.
Their record in 56 games. Okay. Grubauer had 30 wins. How Grubauer is not a finalist for the Vezina baffles me. How Jared Bednar, doing what he's done year in and year out from the Avalanche after that abysmal 48-point year, and quite frankly, even including the 48-point year, and how he got the team to respond on short notice, keeping their head up, keep grinding, keep competing, how he is not a Jack Adams finalist, let alone winner, year in and year out, baffles me. Because look at the statistics, the stats. They say that the team and the coaching staff did this. Why why are they not included even in the finalist, let alone selected as the winner? And I use that emotional example as the example, but stats speak volumes to things. If you
just answered all your own questions.
if
You
you
just answered all your so Cujo's 5th or 6th all time in wins. He's undrafted. He's got the same number of Stanley Cups as Roberto Luongo, and Luongo will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Why Cujo is not? Neither one of them ever played on very good teams.
Yeah.
So in your case, the example you make is, here's the stats that support the winningest goaltender in the league, the winningest coach in the league, a guy who's taken these guys from the outhouse to the penthouse, and they don't even get a sniff. And this is exactly why there is no credibility left in any of these awards and the recognition that is simply voted on by a panel of quote unquote experts. It's malarkey, and I haven't taken any of it seriously in many, many years. And I would advise everyone out there to not take it seriously. It's a waste of time. If you want to have a good time, go to Vegas on awards weekend and have some fun. But as far as like hanging your hat on awards and writing a bonus in your contract based on getting an award, it's malarkey. It's absolute shite.
Well, that's why when you look everywhere, all the highlights and it's one of the things that always baffled Owen growing up and things like that, right? All the highlights is the goalie being scored on, right? It's not the goalie making a save. It's the goalie being scored on. And I use that as an example because what it means is that we as a society, as a sports viewing society, what's exciting is the offense, the goal scoring, the overtime winners, all this stuff. So, well, why wouldn't the Norris Trophy go to the highest scoring defenseman? Because, wow, he put up 50 points, right? And things like that, rather than he played solid positionally. He was a plus 40. He was, he stayed out of the penalty box. This was his ice time minutes. He blocked this many shots. So he's the number one defenseman. Why, I say why rhetorically, based on what I just said, I can tell you why. It's because it's not exciting. It's not exciting to say that, that Grubauer is the Vezina Trophy winner with 30 wins, helping the Avalanche do what he's done through a COVID year and doing whatever, because, well, he's in the Colorado market, and that's not Vegas, and that's not New York, and that's not LA.
It's not the coasts. So none of that stuff makes sense. And this is, you weren't born when this happened, but Fox Sports did some NHL broadcasts back in the 80s, I think it was, late 80s, early 90s. And they put a little flame coming out of the back of the puck so that all the people who had never seen a hockey game before and had no idea what they were watching, those people could follow the puck because they were too stupid to do it otherwise. Now, I'm all for getting new fans acquainted with the game, but if your acquaintanceship with the game is the only fun hockey game is a 7-6 game, then you're an idiot. And you should stop pandering to that crowd. Quit changing rules so that every game has 11 goals in it. Whatever happened to a 2-to-1 pitchers duel being an exciting baseball game with some great catches and some double plays turned and stuff? Like, whatever happened to 2-to-1 hockey games? Now, granted, if the whole game is played in the neutral zone, as 20 years ago, New Jersey and Minnesota used to play the game, then yeah, that's boring. Nobody likes that. So
it's funny you say that.
When you have 38 shots to 37 shots and it's 2-to-1, that's an exciting hockey game. Yeah. So if quit pandering to the people that only know if the red light goes on or if there's a fight. That's the only time they know when anything is happening. That's
funny you say that, because it's funny you said that, because before we jumped on Zoom, I was watching. I've been watching the '96 Stanley Cup Final, Colorado and Florida, and they've got the blue glow with the puck.
Oh, okay.
So right? So the blue glow is constantly on the puck. So when it moves, you know where the puck is.
Yeah.
Depending on what kind of shot is taken, like if it's a slap shot, all of a sudden it becomes like a red flame coming out of the back of it. Like, wow, that was a really hard shot. So I'm sitting here watching it, kind of baffled myself, like, oh, I forgot that they did this.
I
And
can't take it anymore. We have to stop.
it
We have to
makes me
move on.
worried for what they're going to do with ESPN and TNT.
I won't be watching it. One thing before we go, and this is just, I got nothing against this guy necessarily, but Jack Eichel lipping off about his medical condition is 100% out of bounds. He's browned off at the Sabres because they won't let him do an experimental procedure on a neck disc, a disc replacement. It's never been done on an NHL player before. The Buffalo Sabres have $80 million invested in this kid. Now he's come public with his problem, and he's weighing in medically and telling the team that they need to let him do this procedure when they write his paycheck, which, by the way, is about $500,000 every 2 weeks. So the team gets to say what kind of procedure they're signing off on, and the PA has not said that this is something that they would admit, that they would allow also. So insurance and the PA and the league, nobody wants this done, and yet he's in front of a microphone whining about his neck disc.
Well,
It's absolutely out of bounds. Now he's untradeable, he's unhealthy, he's unhappy, and he is worth absolutely sweet FA to the Buffalo Sabres and to everybody else until he gets this fixed.
well, Eichel's got a big wake-up call if he thinks a trade will solve it. I can tell you right now,
he's untradeable.
Well, not just that, but I can tell you right now, 31 other teams. And to clarify to all those listening, based on the conversation we just had about people who don't know anything about it, 31 other teams, that includes every other NHL team. 31 other teams would not let him get the procedure either.
No.
I can tell you that right now. That's a guarantee. So if he thinks that he's going to come out on a microphone and complain and one, force a trade, which just isn't going to happen, but two, then get traded, and the Rangers or the Kings or the Red Wings or the Blackhawks or anybody like that is then going to say, sure, Jack, go for it. He's sorely mistaken.
So here's what you do in the GM's chair. Let's see. I'm going to take next year's first round pick, a top prospect, and a roster player. I'm going to package that up, send it to Buffalo. I'm going to send at least 3 major league assets to Buffalo. And I'm going to take on a $10 million salary in a flat cap. And what do I get in return? I get a guy with a neck disc that he thinks needs to be sawed off and replaced. Stand in line if you want to make that deal. Hold up your hand if you think you're going to make that deal and your owner is not going to fire you within a half hour of that, jump right up. Not going to happen. And Eichel, if he wants out of Buffalo, the best thing he could have done was kept his mouth shut, get this thing fixed, rehab it, do whatever the league and the PA and the medical staff say to do, get it fixed, put a smile on your face, and produce. And he's done the producing part, but you can't, when you start yapping about wanting out of here, your value goes down. Now I know you got to trade this guy because he doesn't want to play for you. So instead of a first, a second, and a prospect, my offer just goes way down when I know you have to unload him. I mean, who is advising this kid on what? That was one of the stupidest 20 minutes I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot.
It was a big.
Anyway, that's my last one-timer of the day.
Well, on that note, it was a big return, and we're seeing it pay off. If you're watching, whether you're a fan of them or not, it was a big return on the Duchesne trade out of Colorado. But it makes you wonder what the return could have been if Duchesne kept his mouth shut.
Right.
If Duchesne showed up to the mandatory captain's skate that the Avalanche hold every year, had he not disappeared until the last second before camp, had he had a smile on his face, shown up ready to work, had he been pleasant to be around, had he done all this stuff, it makes you wonder what the return could have been.
It changes everything.
And as a fan of the Avalanche, I am bowing down to Joe Sakic and that trade for what it's doing for them now and in the future. But the point being, what the return could have been for Duchesne had he, done his job.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. And the guys that are easier to move are the guys that make you at least believe that they're happy and that go out and do their job and keep their mouth shut.
You don't have to be happy, but what you have to do is, what you have to do to everybody else is you have to put on the face like you've just gone through a breakup. You're heartbroken, you're hurt, but you're not going to show it because then she wins. So now I'm going to go out and I'm going to put a smile on my face and I'm going to go hard. I'm going to hit the parties. I'm going to go on dates with new girls. I'm going to do this and that. And they're going to see that my life continues without you.
You don't have to be happy. You just have to make everyone think you're happy.
Exactly.
That's all.
You don't have to be happy in Buffalo. And right now, I don't see how a lot of those players could be. But put a smile on your face, go to work, put your head down, and grind. And I can tell you right then that if you do that, you won't be in Buffalo that much longer.
No.
They will accommodate. But if you're going to just do this, you know, now Eichel doing this means no matter how much they try to accommodate him, it makes a deal that much more difficult.
10 out of 10. And not only that, but this guy is wearing the C. So what happens as soon as he starts lipping off about Buffalo? Now Ristolainen has come out and said he would like a trade or would, like to play out his options. What is the rest of that room thinking when this is your leadership? When this is the kid wearing the C making $10 million and he acts like this? I thought I was just like, if I'm his agent or his dad, I'd slap him silly, but that's just me. Anyway, I know you got to run. We've been, our little 15 or 20 minute chat once again turned into about an hour. So
not bad though. So
time flies when you're having fun.
Always enjoy it. So it was good. Good
too.
Quick hit stuff. Although, can you really call it quick hits anymore? Because we did talk for a while.
So let me just remind everybody that when I say one-timer, when it takes me 15 minutes to talk about a one-timer,
this is the dust off
kind of the same way as I shot a one-timer. It would take me that long to dust it off and wrist it.
This is the dust off episode. Pizza. Dust off episode. I get the puck in the slot right there. Just put it on net. And instead, I'm going to stand there and dust the puck off. Just.
Well, listen. Hey, thanks for having me on.
Look up to the heavens when the goalie gets there to save it or when the shot gets blocked.
Right.
Anyway, thanks.
Exciting stuff coming up. The playoffs will be in full tilt by the time we get back to the microphone. So exciting. Good stuff.
Good stuff to look forward to. Thanks for joining this week.
Thanks for having me on.
We'll see you again on Zoom next week, hopefully. And
yes, sir.
We'll have some playoff hockey at that point to discuss as things have started and progressed. So
right on. All right, bud.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
I'm Evan Rauer from the Hockey Podcast, and we'll see you all throughout the hockey community. Cheers.